You cannot stop this, Daniel. It's protocol.
We'll see about that, Victoria.
This is your last warning.
Daniel thought the strange HOA visit was just another routine complaint. He had no idea that this morning would completely change the balance of power. Victoria Reynolds stepped out first, carrying an HOA enforcement folder. Daniel immediately realized this was not going to be an ordinary inspection. Victoria claimed the HOA had authority to enter and inspect the property. Daniel calmly asked her to show him the written authorization. Daniel didn't raise his voice or threaten anyone. He simply repeated that every action needed proper legal authority. Victoria produced a notice claiming the HOA needed access to property. Daniel studied it carefully and noticed several details that didn't make sense. The conversation became more heated, but Daniel stayed remarkably calm. He knew the HOA's authority had limits, and he intended to document every step. Then Victoria made a decision that surprised everyone watching. She ordered the HOA team to proceed with the property action despite Daniel's objections. Within minutes, Daniel's front entry was damaged during the forced access. He stared at the broken frame, realizing the situation had gone far beyond a simple HOA dispute. Then Daniel saw what they were taking, his large steel safe. The HOA team treated it like another piece of property, but Daniel knew exactly what was inside. What Victoria didn't know was that Daniel had a very different day job. He ran a state anti-corruption unit that investigated abuse of public and private authority. Daniel made one phone call from his office. He didn't ask anyone for revenge. He simply reported what had happened and requested an independent review. The first thing investigators needed was a timeline. Daniel already had photographs, notices, and records showing exactly what happened. Meanwhile, Victoria called an emergency HOA board meeting. She believed the safe was already secured and the controversy would disappear quickly. But the independent review began with one simple question. Who authorized the seizure of the homeowner's safe? The paperwork began telling a very different story. Several decisions appear to have been made without the documentation the HOA claimed existed. The safe was located and formally documented as part of the review. Daniel wanted every step handled through proper procedures. With nothing left to speculation, Victoria finally learned who was reviewing the case. The moment she heard Daniel's name connected to the investigation, her confidence disappeared. That evening, Daniel returned home and looked at the damaged doorway. He wasn't interested in humiliating anyone. He wanted accountability and a complete record of what happened. A neighbor approached Daniel with something important to say. He had seen the entire incident and was willing to provide an independent statement. The boardroom became silent as the timeline was presented. Every decision was being examined against the records the HOA had submitted. The documents did not completely match the story Victoria had told the board. That discrepancy became one of the most important parts of the review. Daniel finally explained why the incident had attracted serious attention. The issue wasn't simply an HOA disagreement. It was whether proper authority and procedure had been followed. Victoria gave her explanation and insisted that the HOA believed it was acting within its authority. The investigators listened without interruption. The safe became the clearest physical symbol of the dispute. Investigators documented its condition and traced every step of how it had been moved. The review resulted in formal corrective actions for the HOA. The board now had to address the damage, the property dispute, and the failures in procedure. A few days later, Daniel's safe was returned. The damaged entry was repaired, and the property was restored to its previous condition. Victoria now had to answer difficult questions from her own board. The incident had become a lesson in why authority must always be matched by proper procedure. Daniel never wanted a fight with his HOA. He simply believed that rules should apply fairly and that nobody should be above accountability. Daniel's home was restored, the safe was returned, and the HOA was forced to answer for its decisions, like, subscribe and tell me where you're watching from.